Guys doing today?
Wow, sorry,
We are having some issues.
yes, we are having some sound gremlins.
Not sure why. I'm
How
trying
did
to
she?
be
Ooh,
real quiet. I think we're okay.
no.
No.
Thank you for your patience and for bearing with us.
We really have a great show for you today. We're trying to get it out there. Yep.
Yeah, still getting feedback.
No feedback. Hey! No feedback. All
So,
right.
hello and welcome to the show. You know, I'm Brian Sheffy.
And I'm Danya Williams.
Hope you guys are having a great holiday weekend.
Yes, yes, we do. Is it live on Facebook?
Give me 1 second. It should be.
Okay, just have to refresh.
Okay.
See here. Ready? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So we wanted to make sure our Facebook followers were there too. We love our Listen Vision followers, but we wanted to hit our Facebook followers too because everyone matters. So anyway, we wanted to say hello to everybody. We have a great show for you today.
Unfortunately, Rick Murphy wasn't able to join us this week, but he will definitely be with us in March. So he sends his apologies.
Yes. So, but today's show is definitely something that you all want to be a part of because we're going to talk about our follow up on some of our enslaved ancestors and how we have connected our family, how we've connected those families from generations back to the people today, to ourselves. So, why don't you start, Brian?
Well, again, and I think a part of the show really is about I don't really want to say sense of accomplishment,
That's what it is.
that is what it is. In terms of reuniting slavery disrupted branches of a family tree. So basically, by that, what I mean is obviously when families were split apart, whether that was because they were split apart in the probate for an enslaving family, or they were actually sold. Like I said, it's just amazing to finally be able to restitch all of those trees that just got broken apart
Right.
and sent all over the place.
Yes. So we're going to start with one of my favorite people.
So this is indirectly going to be touching on Donnie's ancestor, Martha Brooks,
And yours.
and mine.
Yes.
Great auntie at least.
Yes.
So basically, out of the blue, we got a DNA cousin
Yes.
on Ancestry.com.
Yes.
And she was really excited, and we were really excited. And basically, the premise of it is, well, I believe my ancestor, Mariah Brooks, is actually the Mariah Brooks who came from Edgefield. So part of the problem was, and first of all, I'd just like to really, really thank Rashawn because she just gave such excellent information in the message that she sent me, and I'm sure she did the
She
same
called
thing.
me.
Or she called you. Well, she laid it out. She's like, I'm the daughter of, they're the children of, they're the children of. And she went all the way back to Mariah. Because I'm going to be really honest, most people who contact me on Ancestry do not do that.
No, they do not.
They just say, "Oh, I think we may be related," or I'm the child, I'm the descendant of. And
Right.
They don't really explain how they think their ancestor fits our ancestors.
Right.
And with any place, especially like Edgefield or the parts of Virginia or parts of North Carolina, it can get really complicated. So what actually threw me in the beginning was, because she had laid it out, I put it all in my tree exactly the way that she did it, and then I went looking for the records. And I was finding all the records, but they all said that Mariah
Was from Mississippi.
was born in Mississippi. And that was really, really throwing me. At first I was thinking, I'm not really sure if this is the Mariah that came from Edgefield.
Right.
until I actually, and this again is why it's really important to look at every single record. Don't just save it, open it up, and just literally look at every piece of information.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was actually speaking with you on the phone that the penny dropped, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Mariah never gave that information on the census return.
Her husband did.
Gave
Her
the
husband.
information.
Right.
So that was problem number one, because basically in genealogy, when things aren't lining up the way that they should do, if you have a question, that needs to be answered.
Right.
So we were chatting, and how old was Mariah when she was sold?
I don't know the age, but I do know that she had 2 children. So she had Rob and Henry. Can you place that picture that we sent to you up, please?
So she had 2 children.
Right. So if you look at the bottom, you see Maria, Rob, and Henry, and then you see Martha. This is the Edgefield, South Carolina slave record book. And basically in this book, at the very bottom is Martha, which is my great-grandmother, who was sold to Lemuel Brooks. And this was done in 1857. And then you have Maria, Rob, and Henry right over top of her. And she was sold to a John Wilkinson, also 1857. This was the last time they saw each other. This was about 163 years ago.
So just let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to let y'all take that in. That was
So-
163 years ago.
Rashawn is contacting 2 of her cousins,
Right.
us,
Right.
and our lines hadn't been united. The last time that Mariah would have seen her sister Martha was 163 years ago.
Right.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So,
deep.
and it was so funny because Rashonda talked to me about 2 or 3 years ago because she was also on 23andMe.
Oh, right.
And when she talked to me on 23andMe, she didn't know how we were related. So when she called me, she was like, when she called me, I was doing some overtime at work. And I was like, hello? And she said, hi, I spoke to you a couple of years ago, and I wanted to let you know, I didn't know then, but I know now how we're related. And she just went straight into it. Didn't give me the opportunity to say, well, I'm at work right now. Not that it mattered, because I was overtime, so nobody was there. Nobody, it didn't really matter. But she just went straight into it. More than likely, John Wilkinson was the reason why Mariah/Maria was
Taken
to Mississippi. That's how she got there. So when we sat there and we talked about it, she didn't know about the slave record book. So she had Henry. She had already had Henry on her list. She didn't have Rob. So she was like, that's another child. And I'm like, yeah. She said, okay. And it just hit me then, the type of work that we do. And I had to post it. So some of you who are already on my page, I had to post that. I was like, look, I know I cuss and I fuss about genealogy all the time. I mean, and y'all know I cuss and I fuss. Can't stand these people. Like, they get on my nerves. But I'm telling you, I love genealogy so much because you can't find that kind of excitement when you know that you've connected a family after 163 years. You've brought that family back together, and you've had that type of help from your ancestors. Like, because Martha makes it possible for me. I know she stays on one shoulder, and my grandmother stays on the other. My mother's mom, she stays on the other. They stay with me at all times. So, kudos to them.
And to be able to answer some of Rashawn's questions, make that connection, and give her your knowledge about how you think now Mariah and Martha fit within the overall Brooks family. So again, she'll need to see if she actually matches Brooks's,
Right.
the way that you do.
Right. So once, but the thing is that because she matches me, she's gonna match them. I mean, it's
That's true. Well, unless they were half sisters.
unless they were half sisters, right?
Yeah. That we don't know at the moment.
Right. But we'll find out.
So again, it's just one of those little kind of genealogical kind of best practice things I wanted to touch on, because initially there were just a couple of clashes in terms of information. As I said, because it really did throw me that every record kept saying that she was born in Mississippi. It's like, no, they should be saying that she's born in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And then you saw records that I didn't see, and then all of a sudden it was saying that she might have been born in Virginia.
And then South Carolina.
South Carolina.
She had everything.
She had everything.
Yeah, she had everything. Lisa Wade said genealogy is very intense, but I love it too. And it is intense. And that moment when I was showing her the slave record book, she felt the intensity herself, because all she could say was wow. You know, that was the last time that those two sisters saw each other, because right at that moment when I showed her that, then I told her to turn 2 pages over, and then she saw the entire family. So at that point she saw the mother, the father, the rest of the siblings, and all she could say was wow. You know, it's just wow. So have we found other siblings for Martha? Well, yes, we have, but we haven't found the descendants.
Right.
And so I'm looking forward. It gives you the excitement of, okay, well, if we found the descendants for this person, we can find the descendants for the rest of them. That's what Black History Month is about to me. And that's why we're talking about this today, because we are able to bring back families or reconnect families that have been disconnected all these years because of this thing called slavery. And it's just been an awesome journey for me.
And again, we were very fortunate that we were speaking with and interacting with a cousin who had already
done the research.
Who had done the research,
Right.
who had a family tree that we could actually refer to. We could take a look at the records that
Right.
were on that tree. And just basically was getting over that final hurdle.
Yes.
To say, yep, the two of them were sisters.
Yes. So it's real nice when they do the work too.
Oh, yeah.
It's real nice when they do the
All
work.
right. And well, especially, again, considering her family in Mississippi, there's a lot of repeating names.
Right.
So if I was doing it from scratch, it would have taken me so much longer to work through, because, you could have 3 Charlottes who all have the same name, born
Right.
around the same time, but because she had literally laid it out,
Right.
you just had to pick up what she gave us,
Right.
and kind of run with it.
And then the other thing about Martha is that my mom's DNA, because my mom has an Eve, like, DNA. She connects to everybody. Oh my God. Juanita, she connects to everybody. So because she connects the way that she does, my mom has a huge connection of DNA in Louisiana, and I to this day have no idea why. And it could go 2 ways. It could go because of Martha, or it could go because of the Georgetown 272. And I just don't know what it is. But she connects Deep South, and she connects South Carolina, and it's
Well, don't forget, you also have Matthews/Mathis. And
oh yeah, he did have a rack of kids too, didn't he?
He had a rack of kids. It's a huge family, both on the black and the white side, and they're in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Missouri, just throughout the slaveholding South.
I had too many babies. Too many babies.
And again, the reason why I wanted to open up with this one is, again, it dispels the notion that Black people can't do genealogy. Not that we don't have the capability of doing it, but oh well, your family were slaves. You're never going to be.
You're never going to be able to
find.
find. Oh, that's that Twitter conversation. Yeah.
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 So I wanted to open up on that one because, again, that was just it was transformative for her. We were really excited because we found another Brooks sibling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can't do that though.
We can't do that.
No, we can't do that.
And actually, while we're on the topic of Martha, you can talk about your discovery with this lovely South Carolina territorial state census.
Yes.
1869. Is that right?
So the census itself, first of all, I want to thank our cousin Loretta Bellamy for showing this to me. Thank you, Loretta. Yeah, I'm saying it sarcastically with a smile. But Loretta pointed out it's actually on the FamilySearch.org as they continue to push forward with all of the different stuff that they have. They started to digitize. This particular South Carolina census actually dates back from 1829 to 1920. So it's like almost 100 years old. And it starts showing African Americans right after the Civil War. But the date for this particular one that was found was 1869. So one of the things that we do know about Martha Brooks is that she was a breeder. On that same photo that you guys just saw, on the far, I guess that would be the right. Thank you. On where you can't see it, Martha was sold to Lemuel for $1,205. That is an extremely high amount. That amount lets you know that she is considered a breeder. What is a breeder for those that do not know? And I know that sounds crazy for those that do know, but a breeder is just what you think it is. It is a person who was having children so that they could sell them, like a dog. When you breed,
cow.
or a cow, or whatever animal that was bred. My great-great-grandmother, she was my two times great-grandmother, she was bred. And she had children, and they were sold out. This is why she is part of the reason why my mom may have connections everywhere. So,
And keeping on that topic, you've explained the whole concept of, the reality of breeding to people who had never, Americans who had never heard of the term. You've had grown men cry in your presence after you've explained what it was.
Yeah, when I used to drive for Uber, I had, it was so sad. He actually made me cry. This is one white guy. He got in the car with me. You know, as an Uber driver, if you've gotten in cars with Uber as a rider, one of the main questions that you ask is, so what's your other occupation? What else do you do? Is this all that you do? And of course, that starts the conversation off. And I told him, I do genealogy, and I'm a researcher and everything. And it's an excellent topic. Genealogy is an excellent. It's just an excellent topic. And as I was talking to him, and of course it comes back with, what have you found that's interesting? And Martha was my most interesting topic. And when I told him that she was a breeder, he just kind of looked at me strange, because I could see him in the rearview mirror, and he would look at me strange. And he was like, breeder? What do you mean breeder? You mean like a breeder? Like a breeder? And he kept repeating that. He just kept saying breeder. You mean breeder? Like a breeder, like a breeder. And I'm like, yeah, a breeder. He's like an animal breeder, like a breeder? And I said, yes, my great-great-grandmother had babies to be sold. The man cried. I'm talking about at least 6'2", about 225, 230. He bawled in the back of my car. I had to give him tissue, everything. He had no clue. He did not know. He did not understand. He was confused. He was like, I was never taught that. I didn't know anything about that. You've got to be kidding me. You know, all of that. So that's why I'm giving you this definition. This is why I'm telling you guys what it is. This is what breeding is. That's what it was. So anyway, once he got out the car, he kind of tapped on the window real quick, and he was like, "Can I give you a hug? I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Well, you didn't do it, but okay." And I had to put my car in park, and I had to kind of console this big guy, because he was so hurt that so many 100 years ago, my great-great-grandmother had to sell her children. And but yeah, she was a breeder.
Well, she didn't have to. They were sold.
They were sold.
Yeah.
Her children were taken from her. And what really made him cry is that it was her own father or grandfather that did it. So that was when it really got bad for him. He was just done. He was over the moon, and that was it for him.
So the 1869
Yes.
record actually had a little curveball for us.
Yes.
If you'd like to kind of talk about that.
Yes, that 1869 record. So the way the record was set up is it only gave the head of house as named. And lo and behold, living right next door to her was her sister Becky, which was great. But inside the household, the way the columns are set up, it would list males colored in white, females colored in white. In the first column, you had to be between 6 and 16 in order to be listed.
Which is crazy because we know that Martha had children who were young. Because that's what confused me so much yesterday.
Yes, it did.
Because I'm like, wait a minute, Martha had more kids than this.
Right.
But her kids were under the age of 6.
She had some children that were under the age of 6, so some of them were not listed. And we knew that in 1870, she had 2 sets of twin boys, one boy, and then an older girl. That's what we knew from 1870. So when Loretta and I first looked at this, we had to make the comparison between those two. We took the 1869 and the 1870 census, and we were looking at it like that. Originally, Loretta and I were confused because we thought Rebecca, her daughter, was the Becky that was living next door to her. But Rebecca never went by Becky. So I had to send Loretta a message later on, a couple of days later, and say, oh, that wasn't Rebecca. That was her sister. So that was all cleared up. And then when I was talking to Brian about it, and I'm like, no, the 2 sets of twin boys that were younger weren't counted because they were under the age of 6 years old. Then the next column was males 21 or older. She didn't have any males 21 or older, so she didn't have anything listed in that one. So let's go back. Oh, wait. And then you had the next set of columns where you had males total count. So you had males white and colored, females white and colored, and that was your total count. That was the last rows. So here's the kicker. 6 to 16, she had 2 sets of she had 2 boys. That was correct. According to the 1870 census, she did have a set of boys that would have fallen in that. She also had a set of boys that would not have fallen in that because they were under the age of 6. That made sense. How that was, matter of fact, she had 3 boys that would not, because Peter wouldn't have fallen in that as well. So that made sense. Then the 21 years, she didn't have any boys that would have fallen in that. But then we get to the count of how many total people that was in her house. Now, Becky was older. She fell in the female column she didn't fall in the female column because she was older than 16. But she was under the age of 21, so she wasn't counted there. She was only counted in the total number of females in the household. So technically, in the total number, it should have said 2 females, 5 boys. That's what the total number should have said. But instead, the total number said 5 boys, which was correct. But then it said 5 girls. That meant that she had 3 girls that were under the age of 6. So that means that I have 3 more girls that I need to look for my great-great-grandmother.
But the one small consolation we have is those 3 girls were in Edgefield because they were in her house in 1869.
Yep.
So it's not like a case where they were counted and then sold.
So she had her girls. And of course, they're girls. What am I going to do? They're girls. They got married. They got different names.
You can't even do a broad search.
You can't do a broad search.
What I was going to say is you can't do a broad search on women in Edgefield with the last name Brooks who may have gotten married between, say, 1875 and 1890. Because Brooks is a huge family.
They're probably already on my tree.
Yeah, they're probably on the tree.
So yeah.
But that's the beauty of those kind of records is now we know for a fact that there's 3 girls that we have to try and figure out some way of trying to find them
Yeah.
and track them down.
Yeah, but the good thing is that she has some more children that I have to look for. So we got some questions real quick.
Well, I noticed I don't know who asked it. Someone was asking a question about if we found people in Florida. I'm assuming they asked that question when we were talking about Martha and Mariah. So while I am probably sure that there are Brooks descendants in Florida,
Not yet, Martha.
not yet.
That was Martha
Not
that
yet.
asked that question. And then, so Latifa Joyner asked, can you explain breeders? Oh, she came late. Well, just real quick, breeders, again, are women who were set aside to have a buck, and they had children to be sold very, very quickly. That's what it is.
Which is how explains Martha, and then we have another ancestor who was a male, Lewis Matthews, who was also a breeder.
So he was the buck.
So he was the buck, and he was fathering babies all over throughout the entire old 96 district.
And there is a story about another man who is a Brown, who I'm telling y'all, if anybody in my family comes across this man, do not look me up, because I'm not doing that research. I'm telling y'all right now, I'm not doing that research.
She says that now.
I'm saying, I'm dead serious, Brian. I'm hiding from you. According to what I have been told, this man was the father of 100 children.
With the surname Brown.
Do not look me. I'm changing my phone number. The first time one of y'all call me, I'm going to change my phone number. I'm going to change my name. Everything.
But you know, it couldn't have been a Peterson. It couldn't have been a Holloway.
It couldn't
have
matter.
been Tresvant or Oliphant
I
or
could care
Gilchrist.
less.
Brown.
I could care less. I'm
That
not
is
doing
like
it.
one of the, apart from Jones and Smith.
You
Brown.
tricked me into Moses. I'm not doing it. I'm telling you now. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, but
100.
Look at the sense of satisfaction you have now, having found
I
almost.
don't have satisfaction with Moses, Brian. I keep telling you that.
We found all these kids.
So, I don't have any satisfaction. I'm not doing it. 100. 100. Not doing it. Not doing it. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Then there's another person. She said, sorry, came in late. Did these kids have same father? This is just tragic. They can't have, no.
Well, Robin Henry would have had different fathers from the rest of the children she had. I think his name was Rimmer or Rimmel. Was that the man that she married? That Mariah
Who?
married? Mariah married in Mississippi.
I
think it's Rimmel.
I think it's Rimmel.
But because she already had those two, Robin Henry and Edgefield.
She already had them, and those we don't know who. Yeah, we don't.
We have no idea.
We have
who
no
their
idea
fathers were.
who their fathers were.
And then she had a whole second.
And then
family.
the thing about Martha is that her first set of kids, Rebecca, the 2 set of twin boys, my great grandfather Peter, I have no idea who their dads are. There's no clue. Now in 1880 there was another daughter who was named after her, and that's where the name Yeldale came in. So in 1870 all of her children were listed as Brooks, but in 1880 she gave them the last name Yeldale, and that's why my family goes by Yeldale, but we're not Yeldales.
So we're not really sure where the Yeldale.
We don't even know where the
from.
Yeldale surname came from, and we're not Yeldales. I mean, my family can get mad at me all they want to, but we're not Yeldales. We don't even carry the Yeldale DNA. We are cousins to the Yeldales. We're cousins to the white Yeldales. We definitely that. But we're not. I don't have a white Yeldale descendant. Not yet. And if I do, it's so far down the line, it's not close enough for me to know who it is.
Because again, after all of these years, you know exactly what you're looking for.
I know exactly what I'm looking
You can
for.
compare with how you match white Brooks.
Yep.
So you know that you carry the Brooks DNA.
Yep.
Holloway, Matthews,
Yep.
Peterson. You just go all the way down.
I go down the line.
And Yeldell is the one.
That's the one family I cannot connect to. I'm not. Yeah. So it's nowhere in there. So yeah. Latifah Joyner says she thinks her third great grandfather was a buck. Yeah, could be possible.
And again, that's tricky because using Lewis Matthews as an example, not all of his kids carried the Matthews surname. They may not have even known that he was his father.
Mm-hmm.
Their mother may not have told them who their father was because it was, again, breeding. May not have been, I mean, I hate to say it, but some of it may not have even have been consensual.
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of a thing.
yeah. I mean, because when I wrote the book, that was one of the things that I found I wish I had the book in front of me now, but there was actually a slave narrative where there was one guy who in Maryland, and he actually talked about how they would place them like in a stall and tell them that this is where you're going to be until you got this woman pregnant. That was that. That was it. This is where you were going to be. You'd be naked, and this is where you were, and that was that. That's how they did it. Like animals. It was breeding.
So, for instance, one of two of his sons, carried the name Brunson because their mother was a Brunson. They knew he was their father. No, sorry, their mother married a Brunson. So they considered their stepfather to be their father, so they took his name.
I mean,
just
it's
the joys, the stuff that we have to deal with.
Right. You have to be strong to do this. And that's another niche towards Black History Month. The strength that comes from our families. And I'm saying families. I'm talking about both Black and white. They all went through some crazy stuff and passed it down to all of us, because our white family members who do this kind of work, they have to see this, and they have to be strong enough to be able to pass it on to their Black family members and know that their white families did this. Mm-hmm. And they have to be strong enough to say, you know what, I need to share this in order for you to know how we connect. That's a strength that we have to understand that they have to get through. And then we have to be able to take it. That's a strength.
Because I'm going to say, the one thing I wanted to say about the names is I have white families whose names change for different reasons. Nothing because of like breeding. Like for instance, a lot of it had to do with inheritance. So like my South Carolina and Georgia white Butler family. So we have Major Pierce Butler, who basically, I'm not going to get into the whole story. He wasn't really happy with any of his sons, didn't think any of his sons could manage his estate. So he gave it to one of his daughter's children. So that grandson was not born a Butler, but in order to inherit his grandfather's estate,
he had to take
the name Butler.
Okay.
But that was by choice. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, I don't know who my father is, or my mother refuses to tell me who my father is, or I just don't like the circumstances behind my conception.
Right.
Type deal.
Right. But it's just, I don't know. Lisa said, same in my family, we are not Ways, but cousins to the Ways. Ah, okay. And then we have Elizabeth Torres. She says, I hope DNA will help your search lead to cousins of descendants to Martha's girls. It will, because my mom's DNA is extremely strong. You guys have no idea when Juanita when Juanita's DNA popped up, she popped up related to half of Edgefield. And then she ended up also being related to my Sheila. And being related to Sheila's DNA popped up being related to the other half of Edgefield. So being related like that, that's when we started seeing that if you wasn't related to my mother, then you were related to Sheila. And then if you ended up being related to both my mom and Sheila, you ended up being related to all of Edgefield. So those were the things that ended up happening. And I mean, we at that point we just needed to find out how. But because my mom ended up with the DNA of the Williams line, which takes us into Moses and Caroline. Moses Williams is the man that found the 45, that had the 45 children that Brian bullied me into researching and finding those kids. And I said bullied because he bullied me into it. And, you know, with that being said, we already know that Moses is probably at least he's the grandfather of at least 2/3 of that area. It's without a doubt. I have no doubt in that. I could be wrong, but I doubt it.
Well, because I mean, we just worked out the basic logistics. 45 kids. If we know that they were all of them probably having at least double-digit kids. So let's just use the number 10. Nice round, even number. 10 kids. 45 kids. Say each one of those 45 had 10.
450 grandchildren.
4,000, and each one of those had 10 kids.
4,500.
Yeah. And
Now go again. 450,000. But
people might think that 10 is exaggerating. We're not exaggerating.
No, and the reason why we're not exaggerating because we've already found 20 children, and all 20 children got at least 10 children apiece. So there. We know for a fact that he already has at least 200 grandchildren. So ain't nobody exaggerating. I'm just saying. So it's not an exaggeration.
So part of what Donnie and I are going to have to do to find a few more of the remaining children, as well as his mother and siblings, some of his siblings, is going back to those original deeds that I've printed off and have copies of, and start working, because we're getting a sense of what the family names were. Because I mean, some lines we've traced all the way down to the present day. We have living people. And we can see the naming patterns within the overall Williams family. So we can go back to those wills to try to figure out, oh, well, that's where the name Caroline's coming from.
Yeah.
Because look, there's Caroline. There's Caroline. So start stitching those kind of family stories together.
Yep.
I'm going to say one of the best records, between deeds and enslavers, wills and probate records and mentions in books and newspaper comments, one of the best record resources we found for Moses was actually the Freedmen Bureau's labor contracts, the work contracts, which are available for free on FamilySearch.org.
And for Burrell, that was
and for Burrell.
Burrell's.
But we picked up. I think we picked up another. We had already found about 4 or 5 of Moses' kids by that point.
Yeah.
And then we got that contract, and I think we picked up another 5. Mm-hmm. About another 5 people.
Yeah.
Because again, 40 girls gives you a little bit of wiggle room, but he only had 5 boys.
Yeah.
So we had to be really do the due diligence before we actually said this is a son.
Yeah, and the 5 boys were definitely easier to find before we found the girls. But the girls are coming. They're coming.
Slowly. As a matter of fact, we knew that he had a daughter called Caroline because she was mentioned in a work contract, but we, just like Mariah's kids and some of Martha's kids, wasn't really able to pick up the trail for her. The trail,
right.
A lot of that had to do with the fact that she was called Caroline. Mm-hmm. Caroline was a popular name. It was a popular name today. It was a popular name back then.
Yep.
It was definitely a popular name in Edgefield. Shake a tree. You've got about 2,000 Carries and Carolines all falling out of it.
Especially with the last name Brunson.
Mm-hmm. So didn't really get a clear picture on to be able to pick up her trail. And then lo and behold, thanks again to DNA, bam, all of a sudden got 2 DNA descendants of Caroline who ended up marrying a man called Edmund Allen.
Yep.
In Edgefield.
Yep.
And they were just so excited to finally get that confirmation, understand where their family was coming from, because I think one of the DNA descendants lives in Detroit, and the other one lives, I want to say California or Oregon, somewhere way out on the West Coast.
Well, we have a couple of Moses's kids, though, because, don't beat me up, I can't think of her name, because she contacts us a lot. And she's on both of our Facebook page. Oh, I can't think of her name. You know who I'm talking about, though, don't you? Mm-hmm. I can't think of her name.
Just because we get so many.
Because we have so many, but we have a couple of Moses's family, and we are definitely connecting to his line. Oh, she gonna get me. Oh, she's
gonna
gonna
probably get me too.
She gonna
But
get us.
like I said, in our defense, he had a lot of kids.
He had a lot of
has
kids.
A lot of descendants, and and a lot of his descendants contact us.
He got a lot of kids.
So again, it gave them the sense that they had roots. They had roots somewhere. It was a part of the country that they never suspected that they had roots.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of times when people are aware that their ancestry predates a state, like what we're saying last couple of weeks ago, your more immediate ancestry may be in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Florida, in Georgia. And sometimes, the enslaved people were shipped directly to those states and to those ports. But if you have older ancestry, it didn't start there. Mm-hmm. Louisiana maybe because it was French and then it was Spanish. I mean, that's been a slave territory for far longer than the Eastern Seaboard.
Right.
But always keep in the back of the mind that you are going to have lines that will go back
right here,
right to Virginia.
Yeah, everything.
Virginia, Maryland.
Everything started right here on the East for America. I mean, when you want to say you're American, then you need to realize that you started right here on the Eastern Seaboard.
Actually, I need to throw Pennsylvania in that list.
Yeah, it's the 13 colonies.
Yeah.
That's what you need to realize. You started when you're talking about I'm an American, then you need to think about the first 13 colonies because that's America. Mm-hmm. Point blank, that's America.
And all of them had slavery.
That's right. And you need to think about that. You need to be common sense. Yes, we are all being taught what they want us to know. That's true. They are. But in the same instance, even though we're being taught what they want us to know, part of what they want us to know is truth. Some of the stuff that they're teaching us is truth, but some of it is not. It's not all of the truth. I'm not saying that it's a lie.
It's heavily edited.
That's what it is. It's heavily edited. And you have to know that. And the only way you're going to get the rest of it is if you do your research yourself, and you have to share it with your own children because that's the only way they're going to get it. Unless you fight to get it in the school systems like we need to do. And unfortunately, we aren't doing that. We're not fighting for those types of things.
And a conversation that I had with a white cousin recently is I was trying to explain, and I think she got it in the end, that African American genealogy, especially if you come from enslaved lines, it's always bittersweet. It's never, it is joyous in the aspect of reunifying lost branches and, lost ancestors and family members, but it's always within the context of slavery. That's the bitter part.
Yeah, that's the bitter part. It is. And it hurts. And it's sad. And it took me a while to get to that point.
But as my sister likes reminding me, she's said that I told her something once that has always stuck with her. Every time I can reunify a family that's been broken apart by slavery, I told her, it's like I'm giving two fingers. Ooh, I think I almost did it on camera. I'm giving two fingers to slavery. You try to, basically saying that you try to strip away a people's culture, history, family, names, all the rest of it. So the fact that we're doing this and that everyone out there who's researching, especially their enslaved ancestors, is doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. We're undoing what the enslavers tried to do.
So, okay. I'm a big hip hop person. I'm an 80s baby. Okay? And one of my favorite rappers is KRS-One. Like I love him. Him and Chuck D, even though my favorite is Dougie Fresh. So if he sees this, he knows. He loves me. He knows me now. So, but yeah, my favorite is Dougie Fresh. But I am like one of the biggest fans of KRS-One. And the reason being is because he's a teacher. He's a philosopher. And he did this song called You Must Learn. And in You Must Learn, he has this quote that he says, when one, I'm not saying it directly, but it basically goes like this. When one forgets about the other one's culture, ignorance swoops down and takes it away. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like the greatest sentence in the world. And it makes so much sense. You can't just sit up here and not teach part of something without giving all of it, because then ignorance will swoop down and make people think, oh, you didn't do anything. You're so stupid. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You didn't, all this other stuff. This is what Black History Month is supposed to be about, but to teach that other part that you're not giving.
Well, again, we were talking about a heavily edited history. So again, the limited time that my high school spent on teaching about the Black enslaved experience in America, the picture that I had in my head was, well, all slaves did was pick cotton and pick tobacco. No one ever said that even that enslaved people had skills. They were blacksmiths, coopers, wheelwrights,
Carpenters,
ironmongers,
yes,
brickmakers, bricklayers, architects, because Thomas Jefferson's like, oh, I need to have this structure built. And
well, they can't have those titles because they didn't go to school to do that stuff.
This is true.
So you can't have that title, and that's something that my mom used to say.
They know? I mean,
that's what I was getting ready to get to.
Because I could be a European immigrant who knows nothing about architecture, roll off the boat, speak really good, speak English very, very, very well,
and you give me that title,
and I not even give it, I take it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm an architect.
Yeah.
Oh, where did you go to school? University of Edinburgh. Like, really, Thomas Jefferson's going to sit there, compose a letter, send it off to University of Edinburgh in Scotland.
And ask that.
Did this person actually graduate with it? No, he's going to take their word for it.
He's going to take their word for it. But see, my mom, my mom used to say, you could go to school, a white person could go to school for all of those things, be there in school for years for that stuff, come out of school, hand a Black person the blueprint, and then the Black person never in school their life. And that Black person will go and build it and put it together. Look at that blueprint and put it together. And you can't call them an architect? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Why? So, I mean, it's a lot to take in. Why can't you... Why common sense will not allow you to say there's more to them? Why won't common sense allow you to think like that? Why won't, what is wrong with you that you...
I kind of get it. I think the realization is so horrific and it's so big that people just don't want to. Because it's a conversation that you and I had where the penny finally dropped for me why so many of our ancestors, when they were liberated, took freedom and ran with it and became teachers, doctors, lawyers, business people, farmers, entrepreneurs. All of the professions that were available for that time period meant that they could have done that anytime. There was nothing special about the fact that they were freed in 1865.
It could have happened at any moment.
That we were always capable. Even the first Africans of Virginia, you had one of the most famous horse breeders of his day. You had magistrates, you had business people, you had really, really wealthy, successful farmers.
Yep.
We were always able to do that. And I think that that's the horror of it, the horror of slavery that's so huge. Think about all the intellectual capital that has been lost for all time. Because someone, whether they were a wheelwright or working in the field or working in the house, could have had this amazing idea. But because they were slaves, it never saw the light of day.
But the thing is, Brian, that's when the penny dropped for me was when I found out about, when I started to study Reconstruction. Because that's what hit me. You mean tell me they was already like this? That's what I was saying.
And you have to take a deep breath.
You have to take a deep breath because they came out of they came out of slavery running, not even running. They were sprinting. They came out of Reconstruction. They came out of slavery sprinting. And Reconstruction period, that scared the heebie-jeebies out of the people around them, whether they was white or black for that matter. Those that even those who were not, whether they were white or black, uneducated people, they were like, where they come from and how they know how to do this so quickly? How in the world can you come out of slavery and become a senator? How did you do that? How in the world were you able to put up? Do y'all realize that during the Reconstruction period, between 1870 and I think about Reconstruction period ended in around 1877. Within that time period, almost all of the HBCUs were created. There are 100 HBCUs. Almost all of them were created. I need y'all to let that sink in. Almost 100 HBCUs were created between 1865 and 1877. That is less than 20 years.
Now, I have one story that we can think about, because I had never considered this before, talking about how our ancestors took freedom and just ran with it. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. Speaking with a black cousin of mine in Kentucky, his freed ancestor was he did stained glass. He's a stained glass maker, specifically for churches. So you think about how complicated and complex that was. So he had been, born in slavery, freed with everyone else in 1865. He said slavery really haunted his ancestor. His ancestor was so afraid that the federal government would change its mind, because he said it's not like that would have been uncommon. Think about the Native American experience. He wanted to make himself so indispensable to his county and his community by making these really intricate, beautiful stained glass windows for churches.
That he would not be taken back.
He would not be enslaved again.
Well, they did almost try to change their mind. I mean, think about it.
I never thought about that would actually be a fear that newly freed slaves would have actually had, going, wait a minute, they could just change their mind.
At any moment.
The South may not decide to let things lie and try to rise again.
Well,
so
he was right. Mm-hmm. Technically, he was right. I mean, those are the things these are the things that only genealogists, black and white, think about. These are the things, those that really dig into it. And I want our African American genealogists to really understand what our white genealogist families, they think about this. I want them to know that. I don't want my white genealogist family members to feel like they're not counted in this. I don't. I don't want them to feel like that. Because I'm going to tell y'all something. My cousin Martha, she works her tail off for us.
Oh, she does.
She works her tail off for us. She helps us on a regular basis. I can wake up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning and get something from Martha. Mm-hmm. With Missy Price. She works her tail off for us.
And
Sharon Rowe. I wasn't going to forget Sharon. They work their tail.
We're blessed to have.
We're blessed to have them. We're blessed to have them. They have no problem. I'm telling y'all, the first time I really noticed Sharon was when she was like, nana boo boo. I found him regardless. I found out how my cousin, talking about her black cousin Mandawa, I figured out how he was related without y'all help. Forget you. Yeah, that was her thought process. She was like, I don't need y'all.
Just to give a little context, she was not getting help from...
Yeah, she wasn't getting help.
Yeah.
She wasn't getting help from the families that she needed help from. And she was like, poot on you. I got it anyway. And I'm ordering his kilt. That's how she ended it. That's how she ended it. She was like, and I'm ordering his kilt today. So forget y'all. I mean, that was what it is. Do not sleep on your white relatives that are trying to help you. When they're trying to help you, they get it. They honestly get it. You have those that get it. Don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Don't miss out on it, because whether you want to realize this or not, you need them. You're gonna need them. And just like you need them, they need you. Don't think it. Don't think that they don't, because they do. So I don't want them to think, and y'all can get mad at me. Because you need to understand something. I take medicine that makes me feel like I don't care anymore. So I'm at that point. I don't. I know what's right. I follow what's right. And the bottom line is, I know when we need each other. That's the bottom line. We always need each other.
I guess my viewpoint on that is I always extend an open hand without judgment.
That's right.
Because
without
again,
judgment.
You can't apportion blame to people who weren't alive when this happened. And the fact that, they accept us as family and they're on board and they help with research. As far as, your family. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Kind of end of story.
That's it.
That's it. And we're there to support each other.
Right. So let's see if we can find some questions. Okay. My family is deeply rooted in Maryland and Virginia. This is from Hope Whitman Godish. But I have a Smith branch of my family that started in Maryland and ended up in Kentucky. I so wonder if they were the same family. Okay, that wasn't a question. She was just talking about her family.
Well, one thing you might want to consider and look into, Maryland was... did she say that was in the colonial period, or they just started in Maryland?
She didn't say whether it was colonial or not.
I was going to say, well, if it's the colonial period, always remember Maryland was set up as a Catholic colony. Not that everyone that lived in there was Catholic, but the majority certainly were. If that's the case with your Smith family, then take a look in Kentucky to see if they were Catholic. Would be one thing that I suggest. That's helped me with my Calvert family from Maryland, by the way.
Okay. Tiffany, our cousin Tiffany, she was responding, and she said, build the relationship to work with your black and white cousins. That's exactly right. And then she says, we can't change the past. Kaylee Myatt, I hope I pronounced your name right, Kaylee. She says, we can't change the past, but we can control how we handle our knowledge of it and how we help each other. That's very true.
Because actually, I can think of one instance where our Edgefield DNA solved a mystery on the white side of the family, and that's with the Culpepper family. We have Culpeppers thanks to Mr. James Shepard. He's got Culpepper in his line, plus one of his wives was a Culpepper. There was a huge mystery over who his father was. And
did they thank you?
They did.
Oh, actually. That's good. Because I can think of several times where our DNA has helped several mysteries, and they locked their trees. I mean...
Oh, no, they were... Because this is something that the Shepard family has wondered about for over 175 years.
Oh, okay.
Where did we come from?
Everyone
knew that we came from Virginia, but they didn't know... There was no indication who the earlier ancestor was. And because even though we picked up that endogenous DNA, there weren't really any other Shepards kind of coming in. Mm-hmm. They were in the more distant side of the family. So we kind of had a clean kind of Culpepper line coming in. And we just looked at who I was matching, we looked at who you were matching, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's another James.
Okay.
And once we got him, boom.
Oh, so my mom or me?
Your mom.
Okay. Because we needed to match everybody.
But as soon as we worked that out, boom, we just leapfrog about another nine generations.
Yeah, because I want y'all to know my little Russ Parr rant that I did just now, it was for us on a positive side, but it was also on that negative side, because you still have those who will lock their tree and will shut it down. And so that was for them to hear too. Those that will lock their tree.
Well, to that, all I have to say is
You missed out.
Actually, we don't need to see your trees because, as a habit, we may look at someone's tree just to get an idea for what records they may have or for clues. We don't save anything from their trees.
No, we don't.
But you know what? We have other ways.
It's always another way.
We don't need your tree.
Nope, nope, nope.
But again, it sounds as though we're exaggerating, but this seems to be more common occurrence for us with our white South Carolina cousins. As soon as they start seeing like Danya, me, and a handful of other our black cousins, those trees are shut down.
They shut it down
instantly.
Yeah, because we let me see, who is it? Bernice, myself and Brian, Loretta, now Hamad. They see those names, they shut it down.
You see the names and they see our little faces. And like,
they shut it down. They don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They don't Nathan. They don't want to do it. They shut it down.
But the interesting thing, especially on my Facebook timeline feed, I'm seeing more stories about how white Americans are either finding out that they have trace amounts of sub-Saharan African and kicking around in their DNA, or they find out that they are related to people of color. And they meet. You know, of course...
Not from Edgefield.
Not from Edgefield. Well, actually, funny enough, the last three I've seen have all been from Virginia, to be perfectly honest. But it's kind of heartwarming to see. You know, and of course, newspapers are going to cover the most positive stories. You know, they're not going to really cover the negative ones. But still, it's just nice to see that the hand is being outreached and people are meeting and exchanging information and working on their family history together.
It is really nice to see that. And Katrina Rose says, I'm researching Ellison's and I'm getting DNA connections with white cousins from Charleston and Edgefield County area. My great grandfather was born in Louisiana, but I can't figure out how he got there. You can't figure out how he got to Louisiana or to the Edgefield, South Carolina area.
Because I was going to say Charleston was a huge slave shipping port. So,
and not only was Charleston was this slave shipping port, you had a lot of the people that went to that port and then was walked to Edgefield and sold.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways that he might have got to Louisiana. That we might have just solved your mystery. So that's that, and then. Tracy Gaines said, I had a white relative who was mean to me. For 1 year, she wouldn't speak to me. Once her son's DNA came back matching to our black relatives, she called me and told me we had her great-great-great-great-grandparents in common. I knew it was through slavery, so now she's helping me. The McGee family owned many slaves. Well, good. I mean, I'm glad she's helping you.
I told you the story. I had someone from Edgefield, South Carolina, ask me to remove my family line from from the family tree.
Tiffany, you got people harassing you. You want me to beat them up? She says, I'm playing, y'all. I'm playing. She said, I shut my tree down because I was being harassed by people from Facebook who would come to Ancestry DNA to find me and harass me. So as of right now, I do not have a tree up. And Katrina responded.
Oh, just to make that clear, what Donnie and I are saying is the trees that were shut were public to begin with. And as soon as they saw that they matched people of color, they just shut them.
Yeah, we did that. Katrina said, I can't figure out how he got to Louisiana from South Carolina. Yeah, we just solved your issue. Because then it was somehow or another, he may have been a descendant of one of those who came in on that port through Charleston, and he could have been walked. That ancestor could have been sold from Edgefield, or something to that nature, something around that way.
My advice would be, if you already know that they may have had a footprint in Charleston, take a look at those slave shipping manifests from Charleston to Louisiana.
Right.
I mean, I believe you can get those on the South Carolina State Archives.
Right.
If that's wrong, if anyone knows the correct one for that, please
Yeah, please
post a comment.
post it on this comment site.
Oh no, it is because I got loads of shipping manifests for
For Pierce Butler.
for Pierce Butler.
Right.
So it is. It's the South Carolina State Archives.
So yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that we have to work together in order. Black History Month should teach us to work together. It should also teach us that people of color have done so much more than what you know. You shouldn't just take February, the month of February, to learn that. So there are so many pages on Facebook, so many websites that are out there to let you know that.
Well, I was also going to say that's one of the powerful takeaways that I had from Catherine Knight's book Unveiled.
Yes.
Because I mean, I knew bits and pieces about the first Africans of Virginia.
Yes.
But when I actually learned what they did in Jamestown and how they saved Jamestown, because they basically had skills that the colonists
Didn't have.
When I sat down and I thought about it, it's like, well, if they're just grabbing poor people off the streets of London or Norwich or wherever they grabbed them from in England, shove them on a boat, send them over here. Oh, you're going to be our vanguard for our new colony in Virginia. They didn't know how to farm.
Nope.
They didn't know how to raise animals. They weren't iron workers or wheelwrights or any of that kind of stuff. Those were all skills that those Africans brought in. And really, if it weren't for them, and I kind of get why that part of the history has been edited, if it hadn't been for them, Jamestown would have died out.
Right.
That's it. That would have been failure number 2 or 3 for the English. There's no telling that if they would have ever tried to set up another colony again, at least in Virginia.
Right.
I mean, the one in New York and Massachusetts and whatnot were going all right.
Right. Karen says that she's biracial, Karen Bertram. She says she's biracial. My husband is white. My eldest son gets very upset when I talk about my line having been slaveholders. He hates that history. He needs to know it. He needs to know it. And then she says on top of it, it is not just a single line, but several on the white side. I don't even know how to answer that.
It would probably be well, it wouldn't be easier. It would probably be more straightforward if it was taught honestly in schools. But to say that that's woven into the fabric of this country, and that he's not alone. We're as much as we're descendants of the enslaved, we're descendants of the enslavers.
Yeah, we are. Yes, we are.
Apart from which, also being descended from free people of color who themselves, some of whom were themselves enslavers.
I don't think I am. I don't have free people of color. Not yet.
I definitely am.
I don't think I have them yet.
Oh, you do?
Who?
If you're a descendant of Lewis Matthews.
I'm a descendant of Lewis, that's right.
And Martha Bottoms.
And Martha Bottoms, that's right.
Bottoms are free.
It's too many of them, so.
So that was probably one of the toughest nuts to get my head around, was that free people of color actually were enslavers too, and they didn't always just enslave their family members.
Right.
Because you can imagine someone got manumitted, which is a fancy way of saying they were freed by their enslaver. They had enough money to be able to buy not all of their family, but slowly and gradually buy them. Mm-hmm. And because the wonderful state of Virginia they basically gave you a choice. After 1805, if we free you, you have 1 year to leave the state, or you're going to be re-enslaved again.
Wow.
That was the law.
Wow.
So sometimes economically, they had to keep their family members enslaved.
Wow. Wow.
Which is why, again, you start seeing free people of color in Virginia start moving into places like Ohio. So they're like, well, look, it ain't worth it. We're gonna buy the freedom of as many. We're gonna buy as many of our family members as we can, and then we're heading out either to North Carolina or Ohio. Yeah, 1805 is when that statute hit.
Jesus Christ. One of the best things that I love about genealogy is you literally learn something new every single, not just day, every minute. As long as I have been researching, I never knew that. I didn't know that.
So if you were free before 1805, it didn't impact you. If you were freed after 1805, you had a year.
Wow. Martha said, I recently came across a Brooks family who came to Marion District, South Carolina, free people of color. Wow. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
They might be a part of us, Martha. Who knows?
again, Brooks is just one, like Williams and Jones and all the rest of them. It is a hard name because it's a common name.
Because it's a common name,
It's a
right?
very common name. So,
Right.
because we know that we have at least 5 different William family group in Old Edgefield, and they are, if you look at the males' Y haplogroups,
Right.
they're all distinctly different.
Right. And then, like Sharon, is a Brooks descendant, but it's not through Preston and him.
Right.
So she's Esau or something like that, but that's not through Preston Brooks or anything like that.
Well, again, I've got a whole line of Quaker Brookses, some of whom went to Abbeville. Not the same family.
Not the same family.
Not the same family.
I think that's Sharon's family.
Right.
I actually think that's Sharon's family. So, but she said they are related to a DNA match of hers. Okay. But I think Martha's related to my Brooks's. I don't know. We'll have to see about that, Martha. But I don't know. I think as far as, Black History Month, we're talking about our enslaved families. So if you have some enslaved families that you want to ask questions about and how you've connected some of your families, let us know and give us some of your stories, because we've definitely shared ours and how we're proud of them, and we want to hear your stories, and let us know where you are. That's what we're doing for Black History Month today.
And we're always checking in with the comments. We always get notifications.
Yes.
Because we are swiftly running out of time. And I was going to say, if you would like to introduce...
Talk about it next week?
Next week.
Finally, Mr. Mack is coming. Mr. Mack Morris. He's coming in. Morris Mack. And he is going to talk about his experience as on the railroad in Norfolk. So Mr. Mack was he worked there, I think, in the 60s. So he was a part of some of the first African Americans working on the railroad with the, coming in Virginia, still in a very racist time period.
Well, it'll be interesting to talk to him about the difference between what the Pullman porters, that kind of generation of railroad workers had.
Yes, and he was also one of the ones that was working on the line and putting the tracks down.
Oh, so he was a lineman.
He was a lineman.
Got it.
He was a lineman. And he's going to, be talking about the lines and being able to, he was one of those very educated ones, and he was 30 of them. And how he was fired 3 months before he was able to pull his retirement. He's going to tell his story. So he's very nervous. So I want you guys to definitely welcome him. He's very nervous. He's excited, but he's nervous. Beautiful man. He's absolutely gorgeous. I love him to death. I love talking to him. I met him. He works at the DAR with me. And he's awesome. He's an awesome guy. So definitely welcome Mr. Mack, you guys, next week. And he's going to be the last one on our show, and then we're going to start our Women's History Month in March. So
really looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that one. So, are we? Yeah, okay. So I'm Danya.
I'm Brian. Thank you for spending your Sunday with us, and we'll see you next week, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave the comments, and we'll see you guys later. And we'll come back to the comments and answer anything.
So, see you next week.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.